Back here on Wildcat Insider, John Kurtz, Wyatt, Thompson, Mitch Fortner, all with you. We're joined now by Gene Taylor, who is the athletic director here at K-State, and appreciate his time as always. Gene, football, 4-game win streak, then a tough loss at West Virginia. Where are you at right now with the football season? Is the sky falling now after one loss?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the sky's falling on some other programs around the country, worse than here. But I was obviously we tough game. West Virginia, I think, is a pretty good football team, and we didn't play very well, and made some mistakes, and we got to get that all cleaned up, and we got to, it doesn't get any easier from here. You got obviously Oklahoma State, then Iowa State, and Texas, and Baylor in there, so we better get it figured out here pretty quick.
Well, I will say it seems like, knock on wood, on the COVID front at least, things have calmed down and there haven't been too many issues there with the football team. Is that an accurate statement over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I would say that's very fair. We're getting some kids back, and like I said, you can't knock on wood enough. That hopefully we're staying negative through all of our tests, but hopefully the Halloween Saturday night doesn't affect us too much. You always worry about that. They come back from a trip and on a Saturday and you get back fairly early, and hopefully they behave themselves, but. We did do testing on Sunday and didn't have any results, and the Wednesday test will tell us, hopefully that we're still in pretty good shape.
Gene, it's an interesting schedule that remains, and you said it, a tough part of the schedule coming up. But Oklahoma State this weekend, I'm just curious as to, the conversations that you have with your counterparts around the league, maybe what they're thinking about this race. We in the media here and all of the fans here that, it's so even, Steven, with Oklahoma and Texas not right at the top, and yet they are still a part of this. So I'm just curious as to maybe some of those conversations that you're hearing.
Yeah, no, I think you're very right, accurate, Wyatt, on that. I mean, depending on kind of who's where in their scheduling process, everybody still has a pretty good opportunity, even though Texas has struggled out of the gate. I think they play some teams that they can possibly get back on the winning track, and so I think it's going to come down to some pretty big games towards the end of the back half of the season here, no question. And, I still think, with everything COVID-related, whether it was the lack of spring ball, the interrupted, fall camps, the limited fall camps, some of these teams, and including us, are just, missing players. And, it just affected everybody. You look across the country, and, Michigan, gets beat by a supposedly bad Michigan State team because Michigan State got beat by Rutgers, and it's just that's just the year we're in. It's just wrap it up to chalk it up to 2020. It's just going to be a crazy year,
no doubt.
Yeah, Gene Taylor is with us. Maybe this is in a way the same type of question, but I was going to ask for somebody that's on the inside and around the team on a fairly daily basis. When you talk about what's going on in 2020 with COVID, like social justice, and even K-State's team last week, unfortunately, having to deal with some pretty tragic news that came across as well. How much more stress has there been this year as opposed to other years just from the inside?
Oh, I think it's an incredible amount. Whether it's the weekly, not knowing who's going to be, part of the team and who isn't, who's going to, test positive for COVID, to obviously the. And I think last week, I'm not making excuses, but I think it clearly affected our kids a great deal on Saturday. I like to watch the game from the sidelines and around the bench, and there was really just not a lot of energy. You could just sense that there was something that wasn't the same with this team this weekend against West Virginia as there has been, other weekends. But yeah, I think generally speaking, all of our athletes are dealing with so much more than they ever have in the course of a fall season or any season, really. Just a lot of uncertainty about, games being played, not being played, as they look around the country of, teams that cancel, and then just the weekly stress of, okay, who's going to be here, who's not, and then you just add in just normal injuries and, the stress of playing. It's a high level of stress for these young folks that they've never, ever faced before.
It's interesting hearing you say that, and some of the things that pop into my mind. I guess maybe this, like John said a moment ago, this is a similar question too. But because of all of the things that the young people are dealing with, and I'm talking about all sports here, not just football, but you think about volleyball and what they've accomplished, and soccer and what they've accomplished through all of this. Just from your perspective alone, how satisfying is it to see them continue to fight and do some of the things that they've done this year?
It's really satisfying, and then sometimes, we think sometimes we get so quickly wrapped up into, it's a normal year, and, you get frustrated over losses or whatever the case may be. I think we all have to continue to take a step back and say, okay, this has been very impressive to watch, young people 18 to 23 years old dealing with so much, to still kind of come out to practice and be focused. And, a school year that's not the same, right? I mean, some are in all online classes, some have some in person, some online. It's just unique in every aspect of their lives. And then, you add in, you mentioned the social injustice stuff. We've got a big day tomorrow, and how is that outcome going to affect these kids, which, probably in most election years doesn't really. But I would tell you that tomorrow and the results tomorrow probably are going to affect them in some way. So it's just another piece of 2020 and them growing up in a year that's just so unusual.
Gene Taylor is talking with us. On a slightly different topic here, I don't mean to lead you into an area where you get yourself in trouble, but the Kansas game just happened. You won 55-14. In 2 years, the gap has gone from it being a 3-point game to now 55. I'm not a math major. 55 minus 14 is. How happy are you just with the way that gap has progressed between the two since the hire you made and the hire they made? And how much do you compare the two there, since you guys in particular did make a hire at the same time?
I've said there's always going to be folks that make that comparison. I don't think Coach Kleiman looks at it that way. I think he looks at Kansas being our arch rival, and we need to do everything we can do to win the in-state recruits. He's been that way when he was at North Dakota State too. Is he wanted to make sure that if they were good enough in-state to play for us, that you won that battle, and then other battles around the state. So I think obviously I feel pretty good about clearly very good about the direction we're going. And if you're Jeff Long, although I think he's still very confident, you're probably a little worried about it, to be honest with you. But I think we just have to keep doing what we do best and focus about what our program's about, and let those chips fall where they may.
Well, I know one thing that's happened since the last time we talked to you was the announcement of 25% capacity of men's basketball games this year. Just how did all of that come together, and what are things that folks need to know about what will be happening in Bramlage this year?
Well, they're going to be learning a lot. Our season tickets, folks. We didn't really change the capacity or even request a different capacity just with where everything was. I think our county feels pretty good about how we've managed football so far, even though it's being an indoor facility. The one difference is in football it was more general admission. In basketball it is going to be assigned seating and reserved seating for basketball. Our season ticket holders have been receiving information as to what they can purchase, and they're going through that process right now. And we're starting eventually to get stuff out to our students and what their processes will be. So it'll be very similar to football, with the exception that, if you're a season ticket holder and you had 6 tickets in basketball last year, you would be able to buy 6 this year. And in football, we did limit that a little bit. So we'll see, kind of where we go. Hopefully that we'll get to the 25% capacity. And I think I maybe said this before, we haven't really touched that in football yet. It's, we've been, I think, right around 20%. So hopefully we can get there and, again, do everything we can to be safe, to not only to our fans, but for our athletes and coaches as well.
Well, I'll leave you here with a couple of questions that I've had a few people ask me that I did want to get some clarification on, and maybe the person asking really is just me on this first one. But no, we have not seen any uniform changes or anything with football this year, and I know you guys didn't have a chance to completely retool things, but it hasn't even been like last year. So what's going on with the uniforms this year?
I don't know this. I haven't asked the question specifically. I think it's a fair question. I think Chris has just realized, we were pretty good with our normal traditional uniform, so, why mess with it right now? And I think it's just another piece that he didn't want to introduce into a crazy year. Whether that changes as we go down the road here or not, because we do, you're right, we had some looks. We got the white helmets, we've got the white Wyatt option that we had last year. So you may still see something, but nothing so far that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right. I feel like that just has to be at least once every 2 or 3 times we have you on. I've got to ask something about uniforms. The other question I have is, I know the recruiting dead period has been a thing for a long time now, continues to be extended. Do you have any idea, are there talks about when that is going to change?
Yeah, actually, I think right now there's everybody who's been pretty good. And when I say everybody, we have all the various sport oversight. We have football oversight, we have basketball oversight. You've got these oversight groups. You have the management council. And up until this point, everybody's been really on the same wavelength of let's just continue the dead period until the end of the year. Now that we're getting into January, even though you're seeing a lot more spikes, I think you're going to start seeing some cracks in some of the sports wanting to start getting recruits back on campus, even though, we've got early signing date here. I think it's next week with some of our sports, and football's still doing their December signing date. I think you're going to see some of these groups, whether the oversight groups or coaches, saying, can we, some want to extend it through the end of basketball season, some want to end it, in January. So it'll be interesting where it ends up here over the next few meetings of the management councils. But I would guess that it would extend at least through basketball season. But that's it'll be interesting to see where it ends up.
I'm going to end a little bit strange here myself too. Do you have a Billy Tubbs favorite story? Since we lost Billy at 85, I was just curious. I've heard so many over the last couple of days. It's been pretty entertaining.
I think I don't remember. Gosh dang it! It was who? I'm trying to remember what school it was at that I went in as a young administrator to see one of the ADs, and he told me when they redid his office, he wanted to make sure he had a back door out of his office, so if he heard Billy Tubbs coming down the hallway, he could leave before he got into an argument with Billy about something he didn't want to argue with him about. And I've always thought about that. I'm like, I don't have any coaches like that, but I do have an office that I can get out the back pretty easily. So, for goodness, I don't have any coach. But that was, I remember as a young administrator said, yeah, you always got to have a back door to get away from a coach like Billy Tubbs or some fan that you don't want to talk to.
Back doors are good, right? Yeah.
That's great. That's why you're an experienced vet, Gene, because you learned everything like that early on. Gene, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you soon, and take care. Stay safe.
All right.
Thanks,
guys. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You too. Bye-bye.